Last Sunday, Mike Tomlin indicated that change was coming to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Has he now changed his mind? Hello, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, and welcome to the latest episode of your Pittsburgh Steelers Syndicate with me, your host, Britsburgh, Owen, speaking to you here in the UK. So today we're going to look in this episode at Mike Tomlin's comment on Sunday that change was coming, his comment today that change doesn't appear to be coming, and how realistic is change for the Pittsburgh Steelers this coming season? That's something we've really got to examine before we condemn Tomlin for any comments that he's made. Is change a realistic prospect for the Pittsburgh Steelers? That's the question. Now, last Sunday, after the debacle of the 38-3 defeat to the Buffalo Bills, that had they kept Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis into the end, could have been a lot worse than it actually was. In fact, I heard Dejan Kovacevic say that 38-3 didn't tell the full story of that game, and I somewhat agree with what his sentiments were on that defeat for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, after that game, Tomlin was asked by, it was like Dejan Kovacevic, about change, and did that apply to the coaches as well? And Tomlin didn't appear to rule out changes to the coaching staff. Now, at this point in time, at time of recording, there have been no changes to the Pittsburgh Steelers coaching staff. Whether internally there have been a shuffling of responsibilities, we do not know yet. That has certainly not been revealed to Steelers media. However, it appears that all coordinators are staying the same, that Matt Canada will continue to call the offense, and to some extent, Terrell Austin will have an involvement in calling the defense, although the central rumor seems to be that head coach Mike Tomlin is still calling the defense, and not very well, in my opinion. So, what is the state of affairs with the Pittsburgh Steelers? Well, that offense does need to change, doesn't it? It has not looked good this season. In fact, you could probably say out of the 5 hours of game time which the Pittsburgh Steelers have been involved in, it's probably looked good for about 30 minutes of it. Not even a whole 30 minutes. It was probably, about 12 to 13 minutes out of that 30 minutes, maybe 14 minutes out of that 30 minutes. The second half against the Jets when Kenny Pickett took over from Mitch Trubisky. Probably the only time this season the offense has looked remotely decent, like it could move the ball at will, converted 5 out of 6 third down opportunities, 1 out of 1 fourth down opportunities, had 9.1 yards per depth of pass, and obviously looked a lot better. Now, at this present moment in time, that offense averages 1.6 touchdowns per game and only 15 points per game, which in this modern, offensive-minded NFL is nowhere near enough and is simply not good enough. So, does change need to come to the offense? You bet your bottom dollar does change need to come to the offense. But is that change realistic? Hang on to the end of the video and we'll talk about that shortly. The defense has, despite the fact that it costs over $108 million, okay, take out the what money of $24 million and you're still looking at $84 million, cost $84 million, that's a lot of money for a defense. Does it look worth $84 million? No. Does it concede over 400 yards per game? Yeah. Does it concede over 25 points per game? Yeah. Good enough? No. Needs change? Yeah. What's that change going to be? At best, I think it could be schematic. And we'll explore those reasons. Hang on to the end of the video for that. Now, Mike Tomlin appeared to rein back his comments today in today's press conference when he was asked about that comment that he made on Sunday. He said he certainly wasn't in favour of change for change's sake. Now, of course, there is some validity in that. You don't just change everything because one thing doesn't work. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There are some elements of the Steelers team that does work quite well. The running game with Warren has looked good. George Pickens, nearly called him Carl there. George Pickens has looked good. The offensive line appears to be taking steps forward. Kenny Pickett looks good at quarterback. So there are some positive. Miles Jack, inside linebacker. Some positives there. Minkah Fitzpatrick, when fit. There you go. Now, this press conference, which was an absolute disaster, by the way, let me tell you this. The press conference, if you have not yet seen it, don't bother. The audio was poor. Mike Tomlin sounded like he was underwater and drowning at the start. And then there was no video, no audio, nothing. bit of a sad indictment, really. The Pittsburgh Steelers, we can't get it right on the field, and we can't even get it right off the field anymore. Even our press conferences are not a disaster these days. Very embarrassing for a professional organization worth, millions and millions of dollars, that they can't do a press conference correct. They can't get the sound and audio correct, yet small YouTube channels can. It's a bit embarrassing, really, isn't it? So, with the overall organisation of the Steelers, is change needed? Yes, I think it is. I think at the end of this season, there needs to be a major sit down and a major root and branch overhaul of an organisation that is stuck in the past, of an organisation that has not moved with the times, of an organisation that, in my opinion, is still stuck in the 1970s, in the way it does business, in the way it thinks, in the way it works day to day, in this so-called Steeler way, which is not to get rid of coaches when they underperform, etc., etc. So I think there is a major overhaul needed, but that can't come till the end of the season, in my opinion. It's just not possible. You cannot do that during a season, tear everything up, unless you're planning to go 1-16 from now on. Now, is what we've seen through 5 weeks acceptable? No, it's not. Not for an organisation like the Pittsburgh Steelers. And people can call us whiny, whingy. They can call us moany. They can call us demanding. They can call us all those things. Yes, but the Pittsburgh Steelers, as a franchise, demands success. 6-time Super Bowl champions, 8 Super Bowl appearances. This team demands success. 15 winning seasons. We demand success as a franchise. Right or wrong, that's the expectation, isn't it? The standard is the standard after all. That's what we hear all the time. Now, is change really realistic at this point in time? And I've got to say, no, it's not. No, it's not, because it appears that the Steelers will not sack Matt Canada. They will not restructure the defensive staff. They would not move on from Austin, and Mike Tomlin will not butt his nose out of calling the defense, something he is incapable of doing to any high standard. Has this season not proved that so far? Also, you've got to look at the fact that the Steelers, in my opinion, do not have enough quality depth to actually make those changes possible. Yes, I agree that Mark Robinson cannot do any worse than Robert Spillane. Hell, my 70-year-old mother couldn't do any worse than Robert Spillane. But if you look at the depth chart of the Pittsburgh Steelers at this moment in time, is the depth really there to make a major step forward? And look at the amount of injuries on that defense. You have got there, in all, 7 players that are questionable and 3 players that are on IR. So we look at that team. Ogunjobi is questionable, so you bring in Wormley. Wormley, pass rush is okay, run defense, awful. Alu showing his age. Cameron Hayward, no arguments with that guy's effort. DeMarvin Leal, great. Isaiah Loudermilk, why he is not playing, I do not know. So it's arguable you could make a decent defensive line out of Hayward, Leal, and Loudermilk. Okay. Let's look at outside linebacker for the moment with TJ Watt out. Malik Reed, what a waste of trade capital. Absolute bust for me. The guy does not look like he could fight his way out of a wet paper bag. Ryan Anderson has had no opportunity yet. Devin Bush is seemingly going backwards again. Robert Spillane is the worst linebacker in the team. Miles Jack is a good player. Marcus Allen, you know my feelings on Marcus Allen. Mark Robinson, I would put Mark Robinson in there as a backup to Bush and Jack. He can't do any worse. Alex Highsmith's having a good season. So let's praise Alex for that. 5.5 sacks this season. Jameer Jones, waste of a roster spot. Then you've got all the injuries to the starting secondary. The starting secondary on paper is a decent enough secondary. Yes, we do still need a shutdown cornerback. I 100% get that. But those guys there, Witherspoon, Edmonds, Fitzpatrick, and Sutton, pretty good. Mollett, useless. Picked on relentlessly. The only thing he's done useful is actually say, well, shut up to those people who are laughing and joking on the sideline. James Pierre was benched last year for poor play. Trey Norwood is only in his second year. We can't rely on a 7th round pick who is in his second year. Miles Killebrew, brilliant special teamer, not a very good safety. Kazee is out. We don't know how long for. Wallace is still questionable. And Carlins Patel is an undrafted free agent. There just is not the depth there to come in, replace those starters and improve this team. There is no strength in depth on that defense. All the money goes on those first few stars. And that's why the defense is underperforming. You look at the offense. Obviously, Pat Freiermuth is questionable. Zach Gentry is also questionable. Stephen Sims is questionable. Calvin Austin is perhaps on his way back, and Anthony Miller is out for the season. Pickett, great. Harris is not fit. There is no way that Najee Harris is fit this season. Deontay Johnson is really struggling with his confidence, keeps dropping the ball. Pickens has been fantastic. Chase Claypool is letting himself down very badly, and I'm a huge Chase Claypool fan. Derek Watt, waste of a roster spot. Moore, Dotson, Cole, Daniels, and Okorafor are all making positive steps forward. Jalen Warren, I would give you, I would play Warren now and rest Harris for the next 2 to 3 weeks. He's not fit. We need Warren to play. Boykin, good special teamer. Ashesky, not been great. Connor Hayward's done a good job at tight end, but there's still not the scheme there to use those weapons, and that's why change is not possible on the offense. So on the defense, it's down to a lack of quality depth, and on the offense, it's down to the fact the scheme is not there to get the best out of the likes of Pickens, Freiermuth when fit, Warren, Harris when fit. That's why this team is failing at this moment in time. Change is needed, but it is not always possible because of what you've got on the team through injuries, lack of depth, and lack of a quality offensive scheme, which is due to Matt Canada. What changes need to be made? Well, in the draft and in next year's free agency period, that defense needs some quality depth brought into place. The line needs quality depth behind those 5 starters. And we need a new offensive coordinator who actually knows how to coordinate an offense. Not the one we have now that is so far out of his depth, he can't even see the surface anymore. Well, that's my thoughts, Steeler Nation. Sorry for rambling on. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this situation we find ourselves in and this comment by Mike Tomlin today. Thanks for watching, and let's finish it as we always do with, here we go, Steelers. Come on!